everyone. I am Amita from Nourish Doc, a platform for natural and holistic therapies. In our session today, we are going to be talking about migraine. I know this whole year, looking at the news and looking at all the other negative things, I'm getting a migraine every day. I'm serious. I'm really getting a migraine every day. But we are going to be talking with Grace Ganel. She is a licensed acupuncturist and she will be telling us how acupuncture helps with migraine. So that is the topic of today. I think it's a fascinating topic. It's something, that can be also interchanged with headache, like a, severe headache. And you can say, oh, I have a severe headache, but in reality, you have a migraine. So yeah, hi Grace, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
Great, great. I was just telling the viewers that we'll be talking about migraine. You know how acupuncture Chinese medicine can help with migraine. And I was saying that this year, with all of the negative news that are coming, all of us have headaches for sure, but then, you don't know when the migraine is, and the headache is. So let's start with, maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit and then we'll go into the questions.
Sure. So I'm an acupuncturist. I hold licenses in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And I actually have the national certification for acupuncture as well. I have been studying for a long time. In addition to acupuncture, I do something called zero balancing that uses touch rather than needles. So it's acupressure as well as some gentle traction and pressure into some really lovely feeling spots. The theory is that we're working on the body, but also on the energy. And it's a really lovely way to get to know a body before I put a needle in. A lot of people are a little anxious. So that's something that I really love to do with all of my patients.
That's amazing. So we will come to zero balancing. Let's, okay, so someone is already asking a question, how to get a nice sleep. We are going to come to that. Let's go through the questions. That's a good question. And I love when people are engaged. So let's talk about your journey as a teenager, if you don't mind sharing your personal journey, because I think that helps. Personal stories always help other people.
Yeah. So I started getting acupuncture when I was 9 years old. So the first thing that happened was I was having knee pain. I had developmental problems. I was growing too fast. Everything hurt. And acupuncture helped take the edge off. So instead of having to take ibuprofen or Motrin, something that would upset my stomach, I was able to actually have some relief and have a somewhat normal childhood, despite having pain where if I ran, I would just like fall on my face because my knees couldn't support me. I outgrew that eventually, but in adolescence, I had a lot of issues. I actually had a lot of insomnia. I remember hardly being able to sleep most of middle and high school. And I found that acupuncture actually helped me a lot with my sleep, with my mood. And I had done work as well with psychology and psychiatry. Psychiatry I found didn't really help me much personally. It's wonderful for a lot of people. A lot of people have a lot of success with medication. I think it's a wonderful thing when it works, but it's not for everybody. And I want to encourage people that if you're trying psychiatry and it's not quite cutting it, there's so much more out there for you. I found so much relief between acupuncture and psychology. It's like, getting therapy. So I really attribute a lot of my present mental health and resilience to having done a lot of acupuncture work as a patient, and also the work that I've done to become a practitioner to be able to support other people in their journeys. It's really rewarding. Has the sort of effect of I have something to get me out of bed in the morning, and I have something that I want to get good rest for so I can be prepared for the next day. Feel a lot more settled in myself being able to do that.
I think that's amazing. How you got motivation to heal yourself. As a kid, you said you struggle, and now you're helping heal others. That is so amazing and inspiring. So let's come to our topic of migraine. Let's talk about all right, someone is a nursing student. Well, welcome. we love students. We love everyone. So let's talk about acupuncture role in migraine.
Yeah, so I actually, funny, my mom's a nurse, by the way. I love migraine because I know it's so debilitating, and it is one of those things that not only can you not get out of bed, but you're just often bedbound if you have a migraine. Psychiatry for sure. Okay. So there's a lot of medications that people use for migraine that can really help a lot, but they can have some really scary side effects. So I studied when I was in my master's program. I wrote my thesis on migraine. I did a complete literature review of all of literature out there of acupuncture and how it compares and contrasts with using medications.
Wow.
And the research that I found showed was actually that acupuncture was as good as or better than the medications in terms of prophylaxis as well as immediate relief, but without the side effect that you get with the medications. The medications for migraine, they can include side effects that can range from, obviously if you're taking an opiate for pain, you risk of addiction as well as impacted bowel issues with that, or if you're taking a prophylactic medication, there's a whole bunch of different mechanisms of action for those, and some of them can really cause issues with your heart and other problems like that. In Western medicine, migraine is sort of this, I don't know, you have a headache and we don't know why. Maybe it's neurological, maybe it's blood pressure, we're not sure. And in Chinese medicine, there are so many possible routes for migraines. I really enjoyed studying that as well, depending on how they present. It tells me a lot about what's going on for the person. A lot of people have stress-induced migraines, so I think we're going to see a lot more of that right now, getting through treatment. Especially on the sides of the head, you were pointing at your temple, and I was like, yeah, that's the stress migraine, I know that one. People who are really run down, people who aren't getting enough sleep, aren't sleeping well, those in Chinese medicine can have a very common root of something called liver blood deficiency. And liver blood gives us the capacity to nourish all of our muscles and sinews, as well as our eyes. So if you've ever heard of migraine with an aura, where someone sees flashes and weirdness, or has a lot of dizziness and vertigo, that in Chinese medicine is the same root. It's that blood deficiency for the liver. And blood is also really important for our sleep. So if we don't have enough of that in Chinese medicine, and it's more of an idea of a function, rather. It's not that you have anemia if you have Chinese medicine blood deficiency. That's a completely different topic. But it has the same effect in a person. All of those things combine for mental health, sleep, migraine. It's all stress, that the more frustration that's present and the less you're able to express it and move it and do something effective with it, the more it weighs down on your liver channel in Chinese medicine and causes those kinds of issues.
That's fascinating. A lot of people say, I'm not an expert, but I've read different type of migraines that you're talking about, aura migraine, then there's a vertigo, then there's stress induced. But in Chinese medicine, it all boils down to like taking care of the whole thing. It's not just like compartmentalizing each and everything in a separate way, right? I mean, that's what you're saying. And that's what
holistic. It's holistic medicine. Treat the person, not the migraine. I'm not treating migraine. I'm not trying to fix the migraine. I'm trying to help the whole person find a balance. And I'm seeing the migraine as a sign of what's out of balance and the way that their body is requesting change.
No, and that's what is so fascinating. So let's talk through, let's say someone comes into your clinic and they complain of, I have a headache, or that's what the users would do. They don't understand. So so let's explain how acupuncture works, because a lot of people, I see a lot of people joining from overseas and all over the world for that matter. And they might not understand how acupuncture works. When you poke a needle here and there, what happens? That's how, from a user point of view, they see acupuncture as. But maybe you could just explain a little bit of the mechanics of it.
Sure. So if somebody comes in and they have a headache, I need to assess what the nature of that headache is. And I can also assess the whole person, because again, I'm trying to figure out not just what's causing the headache, but what is going on for this whole person in their whole life. And so I'll still do a diagnostic with them regardless. There are a few points that you specifically use when there's an active migraine, because if you do anything else, you can kind of make it worse, because it's such severe pain. And there are a few points that you use for like general head pain, that it's like back in the Song Dynasty, 400 years ago, 4,000 years ago, people have been observing for millennia that you put a needle here and the headache gets better. So it's pretty set in stone. You just go, this is the one I want to use, and you put the needle there. So if somebody comes in with an active migraine, usually I'll use a point that's right here.
Right here.
There.
Right there. Wow.
People go, when they have a headache, it's very natural because it works. And so usually the first one. I would say people who are pregnant should not use this point, but this is a well-known point for headache. People who are pregnant is dangerous because the reason it works is if you have a lot of extra energy in the head, it pulls it down. It takes energy, go down. And if you have a baby, you want to hold the baby in. You don't want it to go down yet. This is a point for inducing labor. So skip that if you're pregnant. In terms of if you're doing acupressure at home, I just recommend avoiding this point if you know that you're pregnant or trying to become pregnant. And the third one is in the feet. Okay. And it's basically the same spot except on the feet. Yeah. And so if it comes in with an active migraine, that's usually where I start. But sometimes people have a headache that's more sort of a dull headache. It's different from migraine. It's a very different quality. So if somebody has a headache where if they push on their head, it feels good, then you raise energy. So it's a very different question. So there's a lot of diagnostic that goes into it.
Sure. So let's, I think that's very helpful. How poking a needle, some of the points, and then suddenly all the energy is flowing and you're feeling so much better. I get the acupuncture done at least from before COVID every month for maintenance, just maintenance part. But so you mentioned about zero balancing. Let's talk a little bit about that and what exactly is zero balancing?
Sure. Zero balancing is basically what happens when an osteopath also becomes an acupuncturist. So this one, Frederick Smith, his name is Dr. Fritz. He was an osteopath first, and his father was a chiropractor. He really noticed something about quality of touch that was really important to him and to his patients as an osteopath. Somewhere along the way, he got invited to study acupuncture with a man named J.R. Worsley, who's actually the founder of a style of acupuncture that I'm largely trained in called 5-element acupuncture, and then specifically J.R. Worsley's 5-element acupuncture. Yeah. So he studied with him, and he was like, I don't know, man, this is kind of weird. He's coming from more of an allopathic science mindset rather than a Chinese medicine science mindset. But then he had an injury to his hand, and he couldn't actually do his manipulations. So he started doing acupuncture, and he was, oh my gosh, it works. The same experience. Oh wow, hey, as John says, you put a needle in it, casts a shadow immediately. If you find the right diagnosis, it should make a difference immediately. And so he starts to see this in his clients, and he's like, oh, there's something to this energy stuff that we're working with. And so when his hand healed, he started to develop this thing that sort of blends the ideas of the channels from Chinese medicine and osteopathic manipulation and focusing on the bones. There's a lot of specific ideas about this tissue belongs to this channel that we work on in Chinese medicine, and the bone belongs to the kidney and bladder channel. It's sort of the essence of who you are. It's literally your skeleton, your core, So he really likes to work through this medicine on the skeleton. And the idea there is sometimes there's held tension in the body. Like I was saying earlier, an emotion that doesn't move, it gets stuck. And it has to go somewhere. If you're angry, but it's inappropriate, you bite your tongue and you hold it down. If you never go out and go for a jog and just get it out, it's going to stay in there somewhere. And one of the ways that it'll get stuck is in the bone. So he found if I just gently press into these points, I can encourage release of that energy, and the person no longer has to use their resources to hold that energy. Instead, it's
I think that's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So, so we talked about acupuncture, all the needles. We talked about the zero balancing. What about the herbs? So do you also use herbs in addition to having the needles, acupuncture needles, to a user or one of your clients? Do you also supplement with some of the Chinese herbs to help them kind of calm down with the migraine or headaches?
Personally, I don't have training in Chinese herbs. If I find that somebody isn't responding to acupuncture and lifestyle recommendations, which I'll absolutely make lifestyle recommendations because food is medicine as well, especially in Chinese medicine. If I find that somebody is still just like quite there, then I might refer them to an herbalist, and I know some. But I've been working with zero balancing, making sure that I'm really, really good at what I do right now. If at some point I find that I'm referring more and more people to herbs, I'll probably add it. It is part of the complete system of Chinese medicine, but just kind of like, one thing at a time is where I'm at. But for sure, like with the blood deficiency, I'll recommend that somebody eats more red meat, or if they don't eat meat, they eat more beans, red beans in particular, greens. Get plenty of liquids, get plenty of broths. For example, if you don't drink bone broth, you can still have like a shiitake mushroom broth that's going to be really restorative for your blood.
Yeah, broth is good. So maybe we can talk about, is there any self-care someone can do? Like, like acupressure is acupuncture without the needles, and zero balancing is kind of a combination of different things you talked about. So is there any self-care someone can do now that in the COVID times? Is this something Yeah.
So I've been offering, because like I was saying, there's some diagnostics that needs to be done, right? Okay. So I've been offering virtual sessions for acupressure, so I can help people find out what's going to work for them with acupressure and take into account there are some points that are contraindicated for certain folks and certain conditions. But like I said, if you press here and you press on that spot on the top of your foot,
top of the foot, like top of the foot right there. Okay.
Yeah, right between, like if this is your big toe and this is your first toe, then it's like right there.
Oh, right here. Okay, right here on the foot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would just not use the hand if you're pregnant or pregnant, but otherwise you're welcome to use this one as well. That's a wonderful set of things to do for migraine anytime you have migraine.
Okay.
But I would just encourage folks to get in the habit of being in a conversation with their body around palpation. If you press here and it feels better, press there.
Yeah.
If you press here and it feels better, there. There's some wonderful point for insomnia right behind you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone asked for the sleep. Someone asked for the sleep as well. Okay, so someone say, could you suggest any first aid for migraine? I don't know what first aid is. That's what we're talking about.
The first aid for migraine are the ones that I just went through the side of the temple. It's like halfway between the corner of the eye and the eyebrow.
Okay, right here. So that's what, whoever asked the question, that's exactly what Grace is talking about, that press it right here, press it behind the ear. If you're pregnant, don't do this right here.
But if you're not pregnant, you're welcome to press here. Yeah. And this one will be very poor. That's how you know you got it.
But and press it on your foot, right? The same way if you're using your thumb right here. So hope that answers your question. These are some of the self-care tips that you can do by yourself. Okay, great.
Another thing for insomnia is there's a lot of settle and calm the mind along the wrists. So you can either rub the wrists or gently tap them together. This is also great for anxiety or even depression, anything that is a mental health level concern. Because across the wrist here, you have some very grounding points for the mental level. So it's a really lovely place to just give yourself a little bit of love. I also do Qigong, which is the first branch of Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine includes exercise and lifestyle, acupuncture, and acupuncture always includes the body work as well. So I do a lot of the body work side of things. We'll always start as much as I can with the first one of offering exercise. If somebody is prone to headaches flare up and they get red in the face and very irritable, there's a lot of exercises of like shaking out to get that energy to move instead of being there. And you can also do mindfulness practice and body scans to help with anxiety, depression, and sleep. So I do a lot of that as well, and that's available virtually as well from wherever you are.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, mindfulness practice, they have a lot of research. So does acupuncture has a lot of research. So hopefully that answers your question, along with the acupuncture, which has shown a lot of research and science behind it, mindfulness practices like yoga, qigong, meditation, all these things, combination of everything, it should help, right, Grace?
Yes. The saying from ancient Chinese texts that we've got about Chinese medicine, first you start with lifestyle and diet. And if that hasn't made a difference, then you move to acupuncture. And if that hasn't made a difference, then you move to herbs. Because you're going least invasive to try and ultimately make a change in somebody's body with you're adding this foreign substance. It's a wonderful thing if it's needed, but they would urge their disciples, those of us who practice, not to jump to that. And unfortunately, the way that our society is set up in America, everybody wants a magic pill, everybody wants something to just But the way that I prefer to think of it, and that I really encourage people to think, if your body is telling you something's wrong, then there's something wrong, and you need to figure out sort of what's going on there. And what I think is so magical to me about Chinese medicine is taking those first couple of steps and really taking the time to understand, what is your body asking you for? What is your spirit asking you for? And can you provide that rather than trying to squash the symptom into submission? Because really, take headaches, for example, it might start as just a mild headache, and you might be into tension headaches. But if you ignore them over time, you may develop migraine disorder, cluster headaches. You might develop syncope, fainting, all sorts of issues because you ignored the early signs, and now your body is like, oh, I'm not giving you any excuses. You are down.
Someone is making a comment. How about Ayurveda? absolutely, right?
I don't know it. I don't know it personally, but I highly recommend it. It's an
Yeah,
amazing,
yeah.
just like Chinese medicine.
It's amazing. Ayurveda, acupuncture, both are amazing sciences. We are talking about acupuncture today, and we've talked about Ayurveda in the past on a lot of other sessions. But Ayurveda is equally good.
Yeah, and that's the home of yoga as well. So
Yeah.
again, prana is the same idea as chi, the way that they're sort of interchangeable in the way that we think about them.
That's right. That's right. Anything else you'd like to add, Grace, before we wrap up? This has been an amazing session. Very informative.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated you, reaching out and collaborating. This has been really lovely. Yeah, I mean, everybody take care of yourselves. Make really good choices. Taking the choice to my body is saying I need rest. I'm going to rest. That's also going to improve your immunity and improve your chances of getting through this pandemic in one piece, right? So continue to make as many healthy choices as you can. Obviously, if you need to go out, make those smart choices, wear a mask and stay away from the folks that you are able to.
Yeah.
Don't go out and do things unless you really, really need to do them. So that's why I'm offering things like my virtual Qigong classes and virtual acupressure. Those are available if you need support, but you can't go out. There's a lot out there for you. So, please ask for help if you need it. There's so much strength in asking for help. And there's so many people out here who want to help you.
Absolutely. And the virtual acupressure classes are, I think, a great way to have people self-care. For self-care, it's great. Well, thank you so much, Grace, for being with us. To all the viewers who've been very engaged, I hope we answered all the questions. And I see people joining now. I'm sorry we are wrapping up. I'm really sorry we're wrapping up, but you can watch the recording and let us know if there are any questions. With that, I'd like to wrap up this session. Grace, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.